afternoon, everybody. Guten Tag. Ich bin Khadi Camara, wurde gerade schon angekündigt vom Afrika-Verein der Deutschen Wirtschaft. Es ist schön, hier zu sein und so viele Mitglieder und Partner von uns hier zu treffen und freue mich auf eine kurze, knackige und hoffentlich inspirierende Diskussion. I'm going to switch to English now because our discussion will take place in English. Frau Monsel came to me a while ago and said, can you not maybe speak about something different, show us some innovative German companies that are active on the African continent? And I immediately thought of two companies, and I'm very happy that they'll join me today. We want to speak about circular economy and the relevance of water, desalination, and those sectors on the African continent, but of course also understand what German companies do and how they change their approaches while they are navigating through the landscapes of doing business on the African continent. We have examples in different sectors here present and also different countries. If you have questions, I know all the other moderators didn't do the Q&A session, but feel free to give me a sign while I'm speaking or the panelists are speaking if we want to maybe create a more interactive environment. With that, I'm very happy to call my two panelists. I usually don't do that, but I think I want to introduce them shortly with a short description of who they are so you really understand the impactful people we have here. I'll start with Jana Heinemann. Jana is the founder and CEO of IMPARI and initiator of the circular innovation projects Without Waste and Parent Plastic. As a designer and entrepreneur, she combines fashion, technology, and sustainable material development into a holistic business model with social and ecological impact. Her work focuses on establishing closed value chains between Europe and West Africa, particularly Ghana.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Jana.
Thank you so much.
Next is Anna Shepelenko. She is Chief Outreach Officer at Boreal GmbH, where she leads international partnerships, strategic growth, and high-level stakeholder engagement, which is a lot on the whole African continent and beyond. And she specializes in emerging markets with a strong focus on climate resilience, clean water access, and cross-sector collaboration. Anna, thank you for being here. Yes, I'm happy because I know you guys very well, and both of your companies I've seen grown, and I've been with Afrika-Verein for 10 years now. So we have the normal day-to-day of small, medium-sized, bigger companies that are entering African markets or trying to expand. And since 7 years, I'm responsible for the circular economy, water and energy sector. So this is one that I saw very close, also with African delegations come in. Boreal, I want to start with you, Anna. I remember the founder and CEO, Hamed, came to Germany and did his first pitch at one of our events, actually also in NRW. At Düsseldorf Flughafen, and he said he used his last money to do that pitch, and since then the company grew. Tell us what Boreal does, and maybe elaborate a little bit already on the journey before we go deeper into the discussion later.
Thank you very much, Khadi, for invitation, and also to Afrika-Verein. This is for us a very interesting connection. So for the last 12 years, since the company was founded, since this trip with the last money, we grew quite a bit. We are manufacturing, designing, producing solar-powered water desalination and ice machines. They have been designed purely for the African market at first, but now they're in over 25 countries all over the world, and we installed over 250 systems. So we did grow quite a bit. We are covering a lot of the coastal Africa, East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, North Africa, but also Latin America, Middle East, and other countries. But yeah, so this has been a long journey. So sustainable water desalination, ice making, cooling, and a lot of water-related topics. This is what we cover.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you more about that in a second. Jana, you started as a designer and now you're an entrepreneur in Ghana. Tell us more about that.
Yes, thank you, Khadi. Yes, I'm actually a sustainable designer, and I came up with my fashion brand IMPARI, and we wanted to be not only sustainable, I also really wanted to change the fashion industry. And there is where I collaborated with different partners, and we created an education program, one of our partners also here from Code for Africa. And yeah, we also started just with teaching it, and then more and more I figured out I have to create my own circular system to really be a role model and really change the industry profoundly. And that's where we came up with Without Waste. And Without Waste is creating threads and filaments out of plastic waste. And through this initiative, we found out the bigger issue is the sorting of plastic, and that's where we came up with Parent Plastic. I'm collaborating with a company in Ghana, Meldak. It's an engineering company where we really create now with KI a new solution for plastic sorting, and where we really want to change something.
Thank you so much. I think it's great to see that changing, you just said you wanted to change the industry, which is already, if you only speak about maybe your own little bubble in Berlin, is already big. But if you want to really make an impact on a larger scale and change whole industries, Africa is the place that you went to. So maybe I would go to you again, Jana, and maybe tell us about your connection to Ghana, or why you started changing the industry in Ghana and not somewhere else.
Yes, of course. I got actually invited as a designer to Accra Fashion Week. I was showcasing there my second collection, and then I really fast started to connect with the community. The fashion industry there works differently. It's really about exchange and community, what for me is very important. And the fashion industry is very superficial and also not really supportive here in the Western world. So I tried to bring this back to Berlin, Germany, but it was not really easy and no one was accepting this here. And then I tried to find a way how I can combine these two worlds and really bring a difference and combine the industries, and not only in fashion.
Thank you so much, Jana. Anna, tell us about the business model of Boreal Light and maybe how it developed, because I also remember the start, you only did water desalination, and now you already called all the things that you are doing. Tell us about your journey on the African continent and the business model attached to it.
So once we started operating in Africa, we very quickly realized that, so first of all, we were not the company that was operating in Germany and having a stable business model, and then we scaled to Africa. This is a very different story because we started from Africa. We developed a product that was solely made for the purposes of the lack of drinking hygiene water, problems with irrigation, water supply, and etc. So Germany does not yet have this problem at the same level. So we came there and we realized that maybe it's not as, we have to be very opportunistic about how we deal with the business model. So very often I get the question, who are your customers? And I have to say, well, it's not only so we work with governments, we got the NGOs, we work with the private sector, we work with the water authorities, with the communities. We sell the water in the water kiosk all over the place. So it's a B2B, B2C, B2G. And in different African countries, we have to adjust to the needs and the opportunities that we have there. So we very clearly realize there is no one way to fit all of the gaps. We have to change our approach in every specific direction. So for example, latest business model that we're using in Africa is called the BOO, which means the build, own, operate. So we are cooperating with international institutions and then establishing the SPVs in the country, and this helps us to provide the drinking water on the spot without the government having a big investment in the first place. So we are signing the contracts for water purchasing contracts for like 15, 20 years. So in the end, they pay for the water and not for the equipment like on a daily basis. So this is kind of like the latest step that we did. But we started with just selling the machines, with just cooperating with the development programs. Like, for example, here just the panel before us, there was the DEG and Develop PP. We did 2 times already the Develop PP program, which is an amazing, I highly recommend it for you to take a look at this. So through this, we are building on a larger and larger scales of how can we operate.
Thank you, Anna. I want to continue with you shortly. You already said develop. How did you finance and how are you financing most of your business? Because there are different models. If you said B2C, B2G, B2B, B2 everything. Tell us maybe about your experiences here and how you have to be flexible there too.
So the idea of also the Develop PP and all this kind of programs is that maybe you do like 50% of the initial investment, and then over time you gain the recognition of the market, and then you are able to sell, for example, to the private sector or to the government itself, because they already like. This is one of the things that we are always asked by the local governments, is that show us that it works in our country. In order to do that, we need a project. So this is like a chicken and egg problem. But with the Develop PP, for example, it's de-risking a lot. So you can build a showcase project, and then building on that on top, you can get more projects there. So financing, so a lot of our projects are financed by the private sector. For example, hotels, hospitals, schools, they are purchasing our equipment, they're installing it. It's a lot about agricultural facilities, greenhouses, all of this, resorts, all of these companies, they need decentralized water supply, so they're not dependent on the boreholes, or they're not dependent on the local water system, which is very often is just absent.
Thank you very much. It's great because I've seen this company grow, and so how you just every time I speak to you guys, you're doing something new in a new country, and that the African continent has been such a focus is so refreshing, because mostly for the companies it's like a side hustle. It's like we're trying to do this on the side a little bit before we enter more. But it's very rare that the whole invest goes into building the relations, travel there a lot, build relationships with the local government, start in small countries. I know you did something in Zanzibar, for example. I think, I mean, it's part of Tanzania, but still it's like a small community, a government that to build this reputation up, because we experience that, and I think the problem with innovative solutions might sometimes also be bringing it across. Not only here in Germany it's a problem, but bringing it across to the local partners, making them understand, and the best way is to show them. Have them touch something.
Maybe I can also just give 2 examples of the latest 2 projects that we have. For example, this week we have one machine going to Yemen. So this is a project that was funded by the international NGO ZOA. And so this is like an aid project. And the second one is a research project which is going to Ukraine next week. So in case anybody is in Berlin and willing to see the machines for themselves, just come to me and I will organize you a visit.
Thank you very much. Jana, maybe also tell us a little bit more about how your business is built up, and what your experiences are or were in the past.
Yes, of course. So at the moment, we are really into the parent plastic project, because when we started Without Waste, where we created a prototype of the machine for creating a filament and a thread out of plastic waste, we figured out the sorting is the biggest issue. So now we are working with AI, and I can't talk too much about it because we are now at the moment in the Exist funding program, where we really focus on getting the patent done. And it's really, really important that we want to create something out of Ghana that we can bring back to Germany, because the issue that we are facing here is that all the plastic waste from all over the world goes to Ghana, and not only from Germany, but also from Germany. And that's why the data bank in Ghana is very high, and we have a lot of different kind of plastics there that we can use to feed our AI. And yeah, I'm very, very curious about this start and about parent plastic, because I know this will be a major impact for also recycling companies here in Europe.
Talking about African solutions, not only for the African continent, but also for Europe or the rest of the world. This is really amazing. Tell us about the challenges that you have had in the past and how that currently impacts your business, or what maybe thoughts would be of needing to adjust to the recent environment, etc. We're all struggling with less funding, also in the development cooperation, etc. Tell us more about that. And I'm looking into the room. Is there anybody that would want to ask a question? No. Okay, I'll continue. Don't worry. Okay, Anna?
Maybe I can speak a little bit. So, for example, coming back to this build, own, operate project, I think the biggest problem or biggest challenge in this project is sometimes the political instability that we're facing, because somebody has to sign a 20-year contract or 15-year contract, and many governments are afraid to do this because they know that maybe, there are elections. And every time we are trying to reach to a new country, we have to really research the political landscape. Like, when are the elections? What are the perspectives? Who are the people to talk to? Because it's a very volatile situation very often. And also sometimes an interesting is that being, you started with the introduction that we are like all over the place, and so having been present in so many African countries, operating from Germany, sometimes it's very difficult for us to maybe see some of the tribalism culture challenges, for example, sometimes we just don't know this, so we have to always involve local partners who would show us around. They would say, okay, this is like this, they would help us on the spot, and etc. to navigate, because this is also has been a challenge sometimes for us to just navigate the environment, navigate the cultures. Africa is not the one country, it's so many different nations, different approaches, different views on life, and etc. So we have to have someone on the spot to help us be there and navigate properly.
Thank you very much, Anna. On the way here, Jana, we talked about you looking for land at the moment. Who are you talking to in order to get land, talking about cultural inclusion, etc.?
Yes, that's a really big point at the moment, because we are trying to build our own production. So we are at the moment speaking to different kings, and yeah, it's a kind of challenge to really focus, as well as we are young entrepreneurs that came together. So we are 4 young entrepreneurs that are trying to build something new, innovative, and I really believe that's also where a big issue is, that the Western infrastructure always wants a kind of thing, but in African countries there's often, maybe for example in waste management, there is a gap. But I see this gap actually as a solution and an innovation space that we can use to create something really meaningful. And yeah.
Thank you so much. I also believe, from the experience that I have with the companies, the ones that are most successful are the ones that see the challenges as the opportunities. If you are on the ground and if you take the time to understand the markets, you will see the need, because there is a market. We speak about the African continent as the market of the future, but no, it's happening now every day. You're just not participating in it. If you think you can enter in 5 years or 10 years, you're too late. And I think that's a discussion we have as Germans far too often, because we always had this position of, we are technology leaders. If we want, we can have it. and the discussions around we're participating as part of the major global players to participate in the African market, but actually to provide solutions for the day-to-day challenges, and maybe starting it small and building it up depending on where your partners lead you and where the local challenges lead you is actually the success model behind a lot of businesses. And I think that's what I would encourage companies, especially in the circular economy sector, because it's one that is evident, it's there, you see it. Everybody that is in African countries knows the lack of pure water, of electricity, of circular economy in general. But the German industry is not really focusing there yet, because maybe trying to just export the solutions they have already created, rather than seeing how their own solutions can be adapted, improved with addressing local challenges. I think that is something that you guys show very well, how somehow German ideas and technology can maybe be part of it. But Jana, I want to come back to you. At the German African Business Summit 2 years ago almost, you had an incident and met somebody that you're now working with. Maybe tell us about how that connection came about.
Yes, exactly. There was a young engineer. He created a recycling machine. And yeah, we met there, and also through the Afrika-Verein. I'm very grateful. And we flew back together to Accra, and that's actually where we had a really deep conversation. And then we started the startup in the airplane, and this is how our long connection already really deepened, and I'm really, really grateful for him and for his ideas, and yeah, I'm happy.
So it's not German engineering building machine, it's actually African, is he Kenyan? Or
no,
Ghanaian engineering with a German idea. I think it's a perfect way to also show that it doesn't only go into one direction. Anna, how has your technology maybe also changed, because you started different? Maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit.
So in the beginning, the company wasn't even called Boreal, it was called Venture, because we were producing wind turbines for the African market, because we saw that there is a huge gap in the electrification. But then also, once the founders were trying to do this business, they realized that the water is a much, much bigger issue there than the electrification. And and also this cost of the solar panels in this year is like 2017, 16, 18, it dropped significantly, and it became much more affordable than the wind energy. That's why the whole concept changed from just making the wind turbines to making the solar-powered water desalination machines. And it took 4 years to kind of like crystallize this concept and crystallize this process. But then afterwards, we realized that, okay, we're now installing a lot of system desalination. This is our core business. But then we also realized that people like to, when they are getting the water, they also prefer to drink chill water, like colder water than warm water. It's a much more enjoyable thing. So we also created a water chiller. And maybe just an interesting technological aspect is even colder water is desalinated even better. Like the recovery of cold water is better than the warm water. So for us, it's even better. We can produce more water than from the cold water. But then we also realized that like this water, for example, there is in the desalination, there is a permeate, which is a clean water, and then there is a brine, which is saline concentrate. So the water is divided into two, just basically explaining it. And then this brine, you have to do something with it. So we also try to operate it sustainably, because just putting it back into the nature is not sustainable. So what we did is that we were creating the fish farms, because the fish can survive in the salty water, and for many fish it's actually preferable environment. We also experimented a lot with saline agriculture, with sanitation and etc., just so that we use every drop of the water. But recently also, last year for example, we discovered that there is huge need for ice. So with our clean water we can also, or even saline brine, we can use this to produce ice. And that's the lifesaver, for example, for fisheries, for meat production, bread production, any kind of vegetable cooling, and etc. And now we had our first installation in Senegal last year for the huge ice production plant for the fisheries. So this is like from just something like unrelated, which is a wind turbine to us. Now we are in the water desalination, ice production, saline agriculture field, and etc. So it's changed quite a bit in the last years.
You see why I invited her. It's really impressive what they have been doing for the past years. Maybe as we're slowly closing, I'm looking into the room again if anybody has a comment or a question. No? I would ask you where you see maybe current or future development, or where would you also seek partnerships? Because Anna, you now said what you're doing, but I believe if you're in communities that deep, you also see other opportunities that you can maybe not you cannot solve it all. Where do you see opportunities? But I would start with you, Jana. Where do you, as a young startup, need support, or where would you be seeking partnerships, since you also somehow jumped into this from being a designer?
Yeah, I think for me it's very, very special because I really now go into deep tech. And I really didn't thought of it when I studied fashion design or I did my tailor apprenticeship. And I believe that we can really bring different kind of sectors together to change something and to create new innovations. And we forget, by staying in our own bubbles, that only new things can happen when we connect and exchange different kind of sectors. And that's why I think there are endless opportunities. So for now, we are really connecting, of course, with the engineering sector, but with the recycling sector, still with the art sector, and also at the educational programs. So it's very important that we also educate what we are doing and what we want to change. And I think that's why I don't know what will come in the future and what kind of ideas I have. So I leave it open.
Anna.
I think, so there are multiple approaches, I think, for the future. I mean, normally, as we are growing, also the size of our machine is growing. So this is one thing, because we started from very tiny communities, or like one school, etc. Then we moved to even, we had a large project in Ukraine for it produces up to 3 million liters of hygiene drinking water a day. So this is already an industrial scale. But in Africa, for example, now we're going to have a huge project with a Namibian water authority. So we are already like integrating some systems into the water, like official water system. But also one thing is that we are entering the green hydrogen market. For us, this is very interesting to see how this evolves, because the whole concept of green hydrogen is based on the fact that everything has to be green, including the water. And currently, the most of the desalination used in the world, like 98% or 99%, is like a diesel-powered or grid-powered desalination, which makes the green hydrogen as an idea impossible. So you need a solar-powered or wind-powered desalination in order to even have that. So now we are also working in Namibia with the projects there for the hydrogen production. And I think for Africa, this is also a very interesting future perspective. Let's see how it goes. I'm very excited about that part too.
I have maybe not something very interesting, that also what happened on the way when we were building our machine. We found another startup that is working with plastic, and we came together as well, and they are creating like a circular system about the plastic waste we can't recycle because they had different kind of layers. So with this kind of plastic, we will create syngas that will like be also supporting the circular system, so we don't need extra electricity to make the machine moving. And that's also what we found out as a startup. You can always connect with different startups to make the movement bigger and happen.
Yeah, and I think maybe as Germans we connect to, there's always a technology solution to the challenges. Maybe you have to take longer to develop it, but yeah. Thank you, ladies, very much. I'll give the last word to you, but I want to underline maybe if you want to understand African challenges, African solutions, the chambers of commerce, the AHKs are here, African embassies are here, but also African diaspora is here. We've seen African diaspora on the panel here today. To understand challenges that maybe your technology, your service, or whatever can bring solutions to, it's important to already utilize the network we have here in Germany. You don't always have to be on the ground. There are a lot of networks, as at Afrika-Verein, but like I said, I would underline I think in NRW we have a lot of African diaspora that understands the challenges their families have at home really well, and I think we have to utilize that. And it's call to action, so I will just give the word to you again to maybe give us a call to action from your perspective, if you can wing it so fast.
I really like the quote in the beginning of this event about like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, right? The second best time is now. Just don't wait, or we're gonna take over everything.
Yeah, I can just say, like, really come together to change something, because we can't make this alone.
Thank you.